All right, I'm here today with Chris of Saosin ahead of his 2026 Australian tour, touring the 20th
hmm
anniversary of the self-titled album. Chris, how you going today?
Oh, so good. You got me thinking about goat meat now.
The name, the
Yeah.
name, I've thought about changing it so many times. In Australia, we've got fantasy football, and it was
hmm
my fantasy football team name, and then it just turned into
There
my
we go.
YouTube name. It just kept going. But
Yeah,
not,
it's my similar to my nickname, which is Boosty,
all
and
right.
my and it was from it's short for Boosty Kaka, and Boosty Kaka is my AOL Instant Messenger
Oh,
name from the year 2000.
dude, now we're going back.
So it's 26-year-old, and that's how people know me.
Yeah. Oh, that is
Yeah.
hilarious. Dude, those were the days. I'm 39, so I'm guessing we're probably similar age and grew up with that same
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah, I'm just a
AOL
few
into
years older than you,
MySpace.
but yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
early MySpace, Friendster,
Yeah.
um, all the old school early back when social media was fun.
Yeah. And that's when the
The
album came
algorithm
out. The album came out in those glory days, 2006, which is
did.
incredible. How's it been rehearsing those old songs? You getting into that old school mindset again?
Honestly, there there's a musical muscle memory that
Yeah.
I think we hadn't used in at the very least 10 years. We hadn't used this musical muscle memory.
Yeah.
And at least for like Alex, our drummer, and I, we're a little bit on the we're more on the neurodivergent end of things.
Yeah.
So for us, it was honestly we could play all of the songs like 95%
Yeah.
without even listening to them or rehearsing them. We could just instantly play them
Just riding a
and know
bike.
every single part and
But
every
yeah.
intricacy. Um, Other members, like Phil, our guitar player, wasn't in the band during the time that we made the record, so he had to learn everything from
No,
scratch. And
wow.
yeah, he'd come from his own band, Azalea Dying. So
Yeah.
that when you're there's just like there's those slight nuances that come when you're learning somebody else's guitar part that you're like, I
Yes.
wouldn't have used my fingers that way, especially because in that during that record, during the self-titled record, the riffs on the record are either written by myself or written by Bo. And I'm not I'm a failed guitar player, bass player by default. So
Same, same. I understand the feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's gonna be some stuff on there that's just not as intuitive, like guitar wise, is not as intuitive. Like if you think about the riff on, like the opening riff on the song like Voices,
Yeah.
that it's not necessarily something that's intuitive for a normal, traditional, rudimentary guitar player. Obviously he's picked it up, but it's like a weird combination of like hammer-ons and pull-offs and just funky. It's just weird, funky stuff.
I
Um,
find that bass players we usually use one string more. We're happier to go higher on a low string rather than a guitarist seems more happy to use a lot of notes in a smaller grouping. Does that riff?
yeah,
Do you find that you're going up the neck more when you don't really need to, just to kind of get that hammer off feeling?
Yeah, I definitely play higher on the neck. I'm not an economical guitar player,
Yeah.
and that is because on bass, there's timbral issues with playing in different parts of the neck,
Yeah.
um, and those timbral issues will then lend to where you end up playing things.
See, I
Um,
don't think you're a failed guitarist. I think you're just a bass player that started in the wrong place by the sound of it. 'Cause you,
Well, bass, ironically, my first instrument that I received like for Christmas when I was growing up, because my brother's a definitely better musician than I am,
yeah.
and he
Okay.
got the Strat, he got the
Yeah.
white Jimi Hendrix Strat, and then I got the matching P bass,
Ah, very
um,
cool.
and I hated it. I hated bass so much, couldn't stand it. And then I thought I was a guitar player,
Yeah.
and then coincidentally, I went to a show in LA in 2003. I went to a show to meet with somebody to sign my other band,
All
and
right.
Saosin was supposed to play that show, and they didn't because their bass player quit. And I met a few of the members. I'd known Bo very briefly. I'd known Bo, but met a few of the other members out front of the venue that they were supposed to play,
Yeah.
and I just told them I was their new bass player. I didn't have
The-
gear. I didn't
yeah.
have a bass. I didn't have anything. I just lied
Said I
and
can do
then
it.
went to one rehearsal. Yeah, I just did
Yeah.
like a quick tryout. I showed up to the tryout. My bass was in the wrong tuning. Um, it was great,
So
and somehow I stuck around.
yeah, bands of that time, it was a different look on stage with gear. So we would have had the Ampeg fridge 8 by
Huge,
10
huge.
pedals. How different is it now touring from back then in 2006 to touring the same album now gear wise? What are you running with now?
Well, for me personally, I we're all on modelers, and I hate it. I can't stand the modeler.
So
It's
is that just a
too
pedal that goes into the DI?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're using a specific set of modelers right now called Act or no, we're not on Axpex anymore. We're on Quad Cortex.
Yes. Yeah.
Quad Cortex is like a Finnish company. It's just a box. It's no different than like what a pod used to be back in the day or Line 6 and that, but it's a lot more sophisticated and algorithmic, but
Yeah.
it's also geared more towards the kind of COVID guitar player who wanted like everything under the sun at any given point.
Yeah.
And like I'm like a really basic Ibanez TS9 tube screamer
Yeah.
plugged into an Ampeg with like a dirty bass tone. That's
Oh
like
yeah.
my go-to. And it's
Yeah.
like kind of the hardest thing ever to get on the modeler.
Oh, really? So
Um,
it's hard to get that raw kind of real
yeah,
tone. What
yeah.
what
But
bass are you playing these days?
this bass I'm playing is a P bass American performer
Yeah.
tube, American professional tubes.
All right. Is there a bit of
And
they're a
I
bit
switched the
pingy?
necks out from P basses to jazz bass necks.
Ah, very nice. Yep. I'm a jazz enthusiast, so I love that you've
There you
changed
go.
to the jazz. What kind of sound difference? I've always found P bass is more of a pingy, high end, kind of more punk tone on that. Is that working better with that old school Saosin kind of? I guess you guys weren't.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the whole record was recorded with a 1965 P bass
Ooh.
that was stripped. Like the whole thing was stripped down to the wood, and it was run into a series of there was like a vintage Ampeg bass tone, a standard DI, like a into like a some sort of I don't remember what like an Eventide or some sort of DI, and then there was a this was normally they would run it into like a Marshall or something
Yeah.
like that, and I was like, dude, I can't do the Marshall, so I actually ran it into a Diesel.
Diesel.
Diesel's like an old metalhead that like Adam from Tool plays
Yeah.
Diesels
All right.
exclusively, right? So I
Yeah.
ran it into a Diesel, or actually I put the Tube Screamer, the TS9 in front of that, into the Diesel, into a 412 cab. And then there's additional track on there that's like it's a 4x10. There's a specific 4x10 Ampeg cab that has a porthole on it. It has like a different logo that kind of looks like an eyeball and has a
Yeah.
specific porthole in it. And then if you take an SVT4 Pro Ampeg SVT4 Pro rack mount,
Yeah.
there has a built-in crossover in it. And you turn the crossover all the way to just subs. And that was our fourth channel, which is just the sub track.
And
So
now,
that was the tone.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And now you're trying
and
to
I,
match that on a
Now we're
modded
trying to create
quad
that with the
cortex.
modeler.
Oh God.
And it's just obviously with the modern sound engineering and then guitars on modeling, because the guitars can then sound like exactly like they were on the record.
Yeah.
Then it's been tricky to kind of like live up to the expectations that it should sound like
Is there
as good as the
someone?
record versus.
Is there anyone that's like a pro that you can take it to and just say, "Can you give me this sound?" Do those people exist, or is
I'm
it?
sure there are. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's techs out there. It's just
Yeah.
they're not necessarily. There's not I mean, bass players are not. Nobody in the bass world is spending as much money as the guys in the guitar world. So they're going to get the guitar world guys are definitely going to get prioritized. And then there's other modelers out there that are like more bass centric, like Ampeg has a modeler and
Yeah.
all these other things have modelers, but it's definitely everything is more geared um, towards guitar playing.
I'm finding a few bands lately, the bass tone is what's shaping the sound. Like Bad Omens, The Plodding You, they've got this thick, rounded bass tone that kind of carries the whole song. So I'm wondering if that's new technologies.
Yeah, I would say my best guess is there's two options that they're using. And this is not I'm not using this as a pejorative, but
Yeah.
they're either using a ding wall
Yes. Yeah.
into a dark glass,
Yeah.
that's the tone, or they're using a bass plugin that sounds like a ding wall into a dark glass.
I,
That's it.
I reckon one of them's using a Music Man, which was surprising. Because do you remember back in the scene days, the Music Man was like the scene metalcore bass, and then at some point it
Could
seemed,
be, yeah.
yeah, I
It
feel
could
like,
be. I never liked the sound of the Music Man. I could never get into the sound of the Music Man. It had that scooped sound,
yeah,
sizzly highs, overproduced lows. I was more in the mid-range hump sound of the P bass. That's
yeah,
why I like the P bass so much. Is it's got a nice mid-range hump.
nice.
I
Well,
played a jazz bass for a little bit, but it was just the jazz bass having the split pickups. It moved it more towards, a little bit more towards the thinner,
yeah,
less rounded mid range,
yeah.
more towards a little bit more scoop.
If I can set your mind back 20 years to
Mhm.
2005, who were you listening to? What bands were you listening to at that time while you were recording and writing?
Whew, it's a lot of bands I was listening to, but during this record, during this record specifically, we listened to a lot of like we had our kind of like go-tos, which like be like
Yeah.
um, Blindside Silence record. Um, I know other guys in the band were listening to In Flames, a lot of metal stuff like that. Um, I like a little bit more of the darker and the sadder, and
Yeah.
so I was probably listening to Deftones. At that time it was probably just a little bit after White Pony and with when their self-titled record was out.
Yeah.
So the first four Deftones records were a huge influence on me. Um, there's a band from there is a band from Louisville, Kentucky
Yeah.
called Elliot.
Elliot.
Um, and I probably ripped them off a bunch
Yeah.
on the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, we we have a very eclectic batch of music that we listen to, and I think that kind of like really helped inform the record, but also it was technically for most of us, it was all of our first record. So we had, however many, I think it was 23 or 22 when we started making the record.
Yeah.
Um,
So you had all those
so
riffs that you've been writing
we had
forever.
all the stuff just that
Yeah.
we're waiting to find out. And luckily for me, because I wasn't in the band when the first EP was made, when translating the name was made, I wasn't part of the writing or the recording process, but I came on right before the first show.
All right.
I was able to be influenced by that EP as a fan,
Yeah,
and so that
definitely.
was actually a gift from my standpoint because I could then be like, these are awesome. I'm stoked. I'm going to add this to my repertoire.
Yeah. And then you
Um,
had something to build on from there, like a
mhm.
blueprint to move
Yeah,
forward. So you were in the same position that Phil's in, where you came in and it's like, I've got to learn someone else's songs.
yeah, and
Yeah.
luckily for me, it was bass, so I didn't care as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story. So I've been in the band for since 2003.
Yeah.
So this will be 22 years at this point,
Yeah.
22 and a half years. And in 2023, the original bass player who played on the EP, Zach Kennedy, played a Music Man.
Yep.
I'd only met Zach once before at a very briefly at a like a Sigur Rós concert or something like that. I very briefly met him.
Just by chance.
Just by chance, he
Yeah.
was there, and I briefly met him and said, "Dude, finally, nice to finally meet you."
Yeah.
Uh, we played a show in 2023, which was like our celebration of our 20th anniversary of the band,
Yeah.
and so we had both singers, we had Cove, we had Anthony, and I wanted Zach to come play uh 7 years with Anthony for the first time ever.
Yeah. Oh, because you came in for the first show.
Yeah, so he had never played
Wow.
it live with Anthony.
Yeah.
So he ended up coming in and he played 7 years and he played the next track, Translating the Name, as
Yeah.
well. And there's a part on Translating the Name that is a little bass riff in the verses.
Yeah.
And I, to this day, still don't know how to play it to what he played it on the record.
Yeah.
And whatever it is whatever it is whatever I've been playing it for the last 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
But once I saw him play it, I'm like, dude, please teach me how to play this part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he finally did. And I still don't play it right, but well, that part was that was very that was fun. That was a fun moment for me because
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah. So yeah,
Wow.
still don't know how to play it, but he does.
So it's turned into an amalgamation of both of your bass parts put together as
Yeah.
to what it is currently. What genre would you call self-titled? If you had to stick a genre on it, I know it's hard.
Dude, it's so hard to say it because a lot of people will call it like metal or metalcore, and then other people will call it emo.
Yeah.
And I always just call it like melodic metal influenced rock or something.
Yeah.
It's so hard to put it into the thing, but naturally because everybody's kind of got lumped in. I guess it's emo,
Yeah.
but we don't have any songs that say like, you've stepped on my heart, and
Yeah.
we just don't have the traditional things that emo bands would call that, because we come from a little bit more of a I tend to think that we come from a little bit more, like, I wouldn't call Deftones new metal, right?
No,
But they were new
no.
metal. Not
It's
to say
like,
that we're even
yeah.
on caliber, but we're just
It's like
kind of
being a
riding the
product.
wave.
Yeah, product of your
Yeah.
time. So Deftones aren't new metal, but at that time, all those bands were new metal. You guys weren't screamo, but you were on Taste of Chaos with the emo bands.
Yeah.
So you kind of just got
So
lumped
strange.
in. Because
Yeah.
there's a new term that I found out just recently. There's a band, Siamese, that
Mhm.
describe themselves as active rock. And I think that is like a kind of a new term that I think fits a lot of those bands that got lumped in with the screamo post-hardcore vibe.
Yeah. But you know what active rock used to be, at least in our world? Active rock used to be like Creed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now Octane Core, I guess, is what that
Yeah.
gets down to. All
Yeah.
right.
So it's tricky. I mean, I think we just have started to default on emo because most people know that. And then you start throwing in screamo, and then you're like, so you just scream the whole time? I was like, no, we don't scream.
No, not at all.
We just sing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So what is it? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess it's emo at this point.
Yeah. With the experience.
Or I
Sorry.
reference like when we were young. Like,
Oh,
have you
yeah.
heard of When We Were Young? And they're like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Like, oh, we played on that. Like, oh, okay, cool, we get it now.
We fit that.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Yeah. With the experience that you've now got 20 years later, if you had the time machine or you could write a message back to yourself, is there anything you'd tell yourself while you were writing and recording self-titled? Is there anything that over the years?
Oh, for sure. I would say the power of how far you want this music to go is more in your hands than it is in the hands of in our case, the record label or the management or something like that. I think we took for granted a little bit of how a record label just does not care.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't even care if a record that does well enough that could be life-changing for you isn't even a blip on the radar for them. They don't give a crap.
Yeah.
And I think that what we're learning and even learning still today with them, because we don't own that record, is just
Mm.
like make sure you're aware of what you have before you just hand it over to somebody else because they convinced you to do so.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's almost what the
and I think
scene,
that's
it was the dream. Every band just wanted to get signed, but without knowing what that was.
yeah, it's a and it was a combination of things. I mean, it was a combination of the economic state of the world and all the goodies that came along with it. But yeah, I think most bands would agree in our genre. And obviously, we don't have there's no global, not a big of a global impact as say like other bands. Obviously, there's some like MCR is the biggest band in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
But like for the most part, there wasn't a huge amount of the bands that we all kind of grew up with that had a huge breakout success, but
Mm.
we have had some maintained success.
Mm.
We've sustained our ability to even come back to Australia here
Yeah.
23 or 20 years later. Like, um, and I think most of those bands would all agree with basically saying if we could go back and do one thing, it would be not to sign the record deals that we were offered because it was an absolute madhouse of garbage and deceit
Yeah.
and basically just ripping off people. Like we're continuing to get ripped off on this record 20 years later. Not to be overly negative about
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
it's a more it's a I hope it's advice for anybody that would ever listen, be like just to know that you got to be in charge of what you have
Yeah.
and don't pretend that somebody else is going to handle it for you
Yeah.
you just won't be a part of it.
I love that as a message. Well, Chris, thank you so much for chatting for me today. Cannot wait. It's one of the most defining albums of our scene and our genre, and very excited for you guys to bring it down to Australia and tour it next year. So thank you so much. And
Oh, we're stoked. Yeah.
yeah,
And we will be more than I was telling the last gal the for our outside of like two very quick shows that we played in California. Our first tour on the self-titled record was in Australia
I was there.
in
Ta- That
2006
was a taste of chaos.
at Taste of Chaos in Perth.
I remember you guys, I was in
Well, the
Adelaide.
first show was in Perth. Yeah,
Yeah.
we played Adelaide,
Yeah.
Perth, Sydney, Melbourne,
I still
and I
remember
think we might have played Brisbane. I
yeah,
think it was 5 shows total.
we'd
But
never
now,
seen, the multi guitar spin. I remember the moment of that being
yeah,
like blew Adelaide's mind of,
it was
we'd,
wild.
yeah, incredible
And
tour.
now coming back, the 20-year, our first tour playing these shows will be back in Australia. So I think that means something. At least that means something to us to be able to have a place that we can rely on, like Australia. We can rely on going to Australia for very important moments.
Yeah.
And definitely, it also brings a little bit of accountability because we know we have to bring our A game, and the show has to be Australia ready
I like that.
for us to show up.
Well,
Otherwise,
yeah.
we're definitely we'll hear about it if it's not. We
Okay.
have heard about it in the past,
Okay.
and we will hear about it, and we like that accountability. I think that is important to us. We like to know with confidence that we're going to be awesome going into the show, and we hope that's well received.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait to see it. We'll see you down here in April. Thank you so much again for the chat. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll eat some Roguenjosh. We'll find it.
Sounds good. Just not lamb.
Yeah.
Nice.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, Chris.